Hi, everybody. We were having some technical difficulties, so I thought I would enjoy some chocolate. As many of you may know, I'm Lauren Ornelas, and I'm the founder and executive director of Food Empowerment Project, and we are currently celebrating my 30-year vegan anniversary. And as part of that celebration, we've been doing a series every Wednesday in the month of April regarding different aspects of Food Empowerment Project's work. The first one we did was regarding farm workers and how we basically rely on farm workers for everything that we eat, vegans or not, but most especially vegans, as we're encouraging other people to stop consuming non-human animals and consume more fruits and vegetables, that we need to do our part to make sure that farm workers are treated with dignity and respect and do what we can to help fight for their rights. This time we're going to be doing a talk on chocolate and how this is another area where just because something's vegan doesn't necessarily mean that it's cruelty-free. I'm going to quickly check in with Erica, who's behind the camera, and make sure we're still going okay, and she will be joining me later.
We're good.
Okay, cool. Like I said, we had a technical difficulty earlier, and I had to start chocolate on my own. So one of the reasons why Food Empowerment Project started working on this, again, for those of you who don't know, Food Empowerment Project was started about 11 years ago. I've been doing animal rights and vegan work for a long time, and slowly wanted to introduce more human rights issues into the work that I was doing. And so when I started Food Empowerment Project, I decided to really merge these issues. And one of the areas that had a profound effect on me was in the early 2000s when I saw a documentary about chocolate and slavery and labor, child labor in the chocolate industry. And it was a BBC segment, and the reporter asked a former slave, what would they say to Westerners who still eat chocolate? And the former slave stated that they would tell them when they're eating chocolate, they are eating my flesh. And as a vegan, I thought this is the same thing as a non-human animal would say. And I knew from that point on, I could no longer look at chocolate in the same way. During that time, I was running another vegan organization, and I had already started to adjust the way I looked at chocolate. I hadn't done a lot of research on it, but my understanding was that there was certain chocolate that was okay. And so for a while I went with no chocolate, and then eventually I started eating some chocolate. And when I started Food Empowerment Project, I finally had the ability to take a closer look at this issue. And one of my mentors on this issue is a man named Robin Romano, who actually passed away a few years ago. And he's one of the documentary filmmakers behind Dark-Sided Chocolate and Shady Chocolate, which if you haven't seen those two, you can watch them for free on YouTube. And they both give a good background on what's happening in the chocolate industry. And Shady Chocolate goes a little deeper and actually looks at some of the certifications and how problematic many of the certifications are. So what's happening in the chocolate industry? We have children and adults who are working in places like the Ivory Coast in Ghana, basically in the Ivory Coast. Not saying this doesn't happen anywhere else, but I'm saying where the most egregious forms of child labor and slavery are taking place are in these areas. But this is areas where you have children who are working in these areas, and they get into there in a variety of ways. Sometimes they're sold into it by a family member. They are very near some of the poorest countries of Burkina Faso and Mali, and sometimes a family member will sell them into slavery. Other times families, because they're so poor, believe that their child is going to be able to go and get work and will be able to send work and bring money back to the family. And worse, sometimes children are trafficked. They're stolen from marketplaces. There's a powerful part in, I believe, Shady Chocolate, where a young child has been trafficked hundreds of miles away and doesn't even speak the local dialect and is working in the cacao fields. So some of their working conditions include the fact that they're exposed to hazardous chemicals. Cacao, they have to cut the cacao pods out of the trees. Some children as young as 7 years old have been seen carrying big machetes. So many of these children have scars on their arms and their legs because of the injuries they incur from carrying these heavy machetes and trying to cut the cacao pods out of the trees. This is considered what's called the worst forms of child labor, where you have children who are actually putting themselves in harm's way by using chemicals that are going to hurt them as well as these heavy machetes. The children also are beaten sometimes if they don't move fast enough while they're carrying these heavy cacao pods, a bag full of them. There are also some children who are locked in at night. And even a few years ago, about 76 children were liberated from slavery, ages, I believe it was 6 to 16, liberated because they locked these children in at night. And if they try to escape, many of them are beaten. So this is a unbelievable situation that's still taking place right now as I'm sitting here. The fact that we still have slavery, and obviously I know slavery isn't just limited to what's happening in the chocolate industry and in food, but Food Empowerment Project was partially started because I did want to talk about blood diamonds and carpet making and brick making, but I realized that we have a lot of power in our food choices. And I wanted to spotlight chocolate and what's happening in Western Africa, which is why we chose this issue, as well as a way to do two things. One is to look at chocolate. A lot of it comes with animal products. Look at chocolate in a way that means no harm to anyone. So chocolate that doesn't have any animals, whether it be cows or goats, cows who are mamas who are separated from their babies, and how the anguish that they endure in the separation. But also to make sure this chocolate isn't coming at the hands of children or adult slaves at all. That we need to do what we can to stop participating in these types of injustices. And when you consider that we eat several times a day, every single time we eat, we have an opportunity to not only eat our ethics, as we like to say here at Food Empowerment Project, but to make sure that we're taking a stand against these injustices, that we reach out to the companies and we let them know why we're not buying their products. So fast forward a little bit to Food Empowerment Project. When I started giving talks about Food Empowerment Project and our issues, and I would talk about the chocolate issue, many people would ask, is there a list? How do we know which companies we can buy from? Because we already knew that a lot of these certifications are problematic. So what we have done is we've created a list of chocolates that we feel comfortable recommending, meaning that they're not sourcing from where the worst forms of child labor and slavery are currently taking place. So we don't go based on any type of certification. We go based strictly on country of origin. So our list, which you can find on our website, breaks down, and we try to be as transparent as possible. So the list is broken down to the companies we feel comfortable recommending. There's a couple of companies that are starting new projects, so we've been giving them the benefit of the doubt, that we are listing them as recommended because they seem to be doing the right thing. Trouble is that we don't have the financial ability at this point to really delve into that as much as we'd like to. We also have companies that we don't recommend because they are not being transparent, meaning they will not disclose country of origin, and they're telling us things like, this is proprietary information, which I'd like to say a cuss word about, but I won't. But this is outrageous, in my opinion, that a company would say, we're not going to tell you country of origin because we feel it's proprietary. We're talking about slavery here. And not only that, Food Empowerment Project is not asking for even the state or the city or the town where it's coming from. We're simply asking for the country of origin, which means that our ability to even track down their supplier would be impossible. So those companies honestly tend to be some of the worst, in my opinion, because they treat this issue in such a cavalier way. We also don't recommend companies that are still currently sourcing from those areas in Western Africa. We also do give some companies, we say they're working on it because they are using a certification, which shows that they are concerned about this issue, but however, they're still using certifications that have not been proven to be incredibly effective. On our webpage where we have the list, we do have a section on understanding our list, which talks about how we reach out to these companies about 3 times in order to get them to respond. Eventually, companies will be placed on our did not respond list. Again, we can't recommend them if they don't respond. Again, we give them about a month and a half to 2 months to get back to us. And just a quick shout out to Dana Portnoy, who's been the one doing the vast majority of our outreach to the companies to find out their supplier, as well as to Simone Hasenbein, who has moved back to Germany and is currently helping us with our European companies, and Catherine Berlot, who is the one who has been researching the companies. So we have a wholesale list of chocolates that companies that we recommend, meaning that when we reach out to, say, a vegan bakery and we ask them, hey, what chocolate do you use? And it turns out to be a company that we don't recommend. We can actually send them a wholesale list, companies that we recommend that could sell the various products that they need so that they continue making vegan chocolate, but also make sure not to support the worst forms of child labor, including slavery. So this is how we've been doing it. We update our list every single month. We ask people to please send us companies that maybe you like but aren't on our list, and we'll reach out to them. We also have a free app that you can download. So if you have an iPhone or an Android, you can download our app. It is free. We want you to be able to use it. For those of us who are vegans, I know that we are very passionate about not contributing to suffering in our food supply. And so I know that it's important to us to make sure that we expand that circle of compassion to also include human animals. And so we want to make this list available to everyone. So trying to make sure on my list that I'm covering most of what I wanted to cover. We have had some successes in our work. We had a campaign against Cliff Bar because they were not disclosing country of origin for their chocolate. Now, our campaign was successful in getting them to disclose. However, they're still currently sourcing from where the worst forms of child labor, including slavery, take place. So we do not recommend Cliff Bar, but we do appreciate them understanding the seriousness of this issue and the need for them to be transparent. We also have had quite a number of companies change chocolate suppliers because of our work and telling them what was going on and the fact that they have wanted to do the right thing by using chocolate that we recommend. One other thing I should clarify is that we are recommending some companies that do source in Western Africa. And those companies that we are recommending is because they are doing things right by the workers, meaning that Divine Chocolate Company has a worker-owned cooperative where the workers actually own the majority of the company. So they are able to, the workers are able to make the decisions about where their profits go. It's not somebody else, it's not a certification making these decisions. It's not a Western entity telling people in another country what they should be doing with their profits. These are the workers making decisions. We also recommend one company that's made up of former child soldiers who are learning new skills and learning to become chocolate entrepreneurs. So there are some companies that we do give a recommendation to because we know they're trying to do things in the right way. And what could help solve this problem? Hershey has just put another effort into trying to stem child labor and slavery. And I don't think it's complicated, and I know that I have a Western perspective, and so I much more rely on those people who are on the ground and who are looking out for the producers themselves, the farmers themselves. But it seems to me that maybe Hershey's CEO could deal with one less house, one less car, and start paying these people what they're worth. Because what it is we're taking this commodity product, we are taking a natural resource from this country, and we're paying them little to nothing for it. And so what needs to happen is that these people need to be paid a living wage for their families to succeed, for their children to be able to go to school, and for them to be able to be successful. But that's not what's happening now. And to me, that's where the true solutions are going to be, is equity and where the money is coming from. Because there is absolutely no excuse for corporations to be profiting as much as they are when we have children who are unable to go to school because their parents aren't being paid enough to do the work that needs to be done. So I'm just going to show you because I have them here. And you can pretty much always find chocolate in the FEP office because we have our dark chocolate creamy caramel bar and our chocolate almond bar, thanks to Jacques. And we have to just talk about this Jacques beauty right here because it was unbelievable. And you see the cute little bunny on it, just like Chavez. We don't have a picture of Chavez, our bunny. Maybe someone can post Chavez for us. Chavez is the tags that we are putting up on our, actually vegan grocery stores are putting up so that you know which chocolate we recommend. Unreals, we recommend only their dark gems, peanut gems, and their The one that's like an M&M. We don't recommend the peanut butter cups because that chocolate isn't coming from where it's still coming from areas where we don't recommend. So some of the stuff we recommend, some of their stuff we don't recommend. And then of course, Equal Exchange, who is a company that we strongly recommend, and we're so excited that they're coming out with more and more vegan stuff. They actually have 2 different kind of vegan chocolate chips. Now, I really didn't sit here and want to promote companies, but at the same time, I don't know that people understand that there is a lot of chocolate that we do recommend. You can go to our list, and many of them are the smaller companies. But again, I'm hoping that people will understand the seriousness of this issue and not want to buy chocolate that's sourced from where the worst forms of child labor and slavery are still taking place. So, and again, for the non-vegans who might be watching out there, we also really encourage you. I think my 4th talk at the end of April will be about veganism, but just as a way of looking simply at the issue of veganism and when it comes to dairy is the desire to not want to separate families. Mother cows form such incredible bonds with their babies, yet their babies are taken away from them immediately after birth sometimes. So looking at this issue in a very simplistic way, it's just not about breaking up families and not causing pain and suffering to other living beings. But we can go through that later. But I'm going to check in with Erica because she's going to sit down, hopefully, and see if we have any questions or comments or anything like that. And I'm going to take some water.
Yeah, we do. Sorry, I'm going through a bunch of stuff at the same time.
While she's doing that, I'll shout out to Abby, who's in our office volunteering right now.
If I had my, Anyways, Stacy OBrien, she is writing, on the opposite side, cruelty-free almost never means vegan. It's hard to explain this to non-vegans who think they are doing a great job by buying cruelty-free products. I appreciate the effort, don't get me wrong.
Totally, I agree. And that's the confusing thing. I would love to do a whole thing on cosmetic testing because that was my baby and how I got started. But yeah, unfortunately, just because you're buying a product that says cruelty-free on it, it may still contain animal ingredients. And those animal ingredients still could have been obtained through painful ways for the animals. So thanks for mentioning that, Stacy.
Yeah, and that was it.
That's it?
Yeah.
No more questions?
No one else has any questions or anything.
Erica's going to try and show y'all Chavez, so if everybody's like, wait, don't hang up.
If I can open him up. But I know.
Are you going to put it on the screen? Here, just flip your screen and you can show Chavez.
Oh.
Get him back up. Or them. Not necessarily him.
That's all right.
Because we really wanted Chavez's first name to be Marty.
All right, we've got to do this.
And we'll give a quick shout out to Kara. Can you see it?
I'm looking.
We want to give shout out to Kara Fry, who actually designed this beautiful bunny. So this bunny is up at places like Nooch, and we're hoping it's up at Food Fight and some of the other vegan grocery stores. And this little tag will indicate to you which chocolate companies we recommend. And I think that there's also a grocery store called Orchard in New York that only sells chocolate that we recommend. So we're hoping to get them a nice sign soon. So people will know as soon as you walk in.
Yeah. So if you see these hanging up at a grocery store, take a photo and send it our way. We'd like to see it.
Erica, you know our social media guru over here. She wants to post it.
Yes, please. I know Charles had, let me flip this back around. I know Charles had a question last week about chocolate. I just can't remember what it was. I gotta find it. But Mark is asking, what is Food Empowerment Project's position on certifications like Fair Trade? You can dive into that while I look for this.
Well, for the certifications like Rainforest Alliance and OOTS, they have been exposed. Shady Chocolate, and actually a photo I use in one of my talks, it was taken in about 2013 by Robin Romano at a Rainforest Alliance certified farm, and there's 2 young girls, one very little girl, they have scars on their arms and their legs, and one of them's holding a machete. So those haven't proven to be very successful. I always feel difficult about fair trade, because fair trade started out with the best of intentions, but fair trade has tended to be watered down, and there's a lot of controversy about that. I think Equal Exchange has really good information on their website, about fair trade, and then we also have information about fair trade on our website as well, including the issue of fair trade in coffee. So, at the end of the day, it's difficult when you have Westerners coming in and telling other people in other countries what they can do, versus if people were to sit down with the growers or the producers or the harvesters and ask them what they would need in order so their children can still go to school and so they wouldn't have to rely on slavery, and then start at that point as part of the solution. So Erica's still looking for a question.
Charles did ask what countries we cover, but I think you went over.
So other places, chocolate is something different than, say, coconuts. Coconuts are grown around the world in different spots. Cacao, which is what the cacao bean, which is what chocolate comes from, is actually only certain places of the world. So in the United States, the only place that I know of thus far where you can actually get cacao or grown is in Hawaii. And of course they still want their independence, so do I still call it part of the U.S.? We won't get into that today. But Hawaii is one of the only places, and then Mexico, Latin America, Indonesia, places like that have grow cacao as well.
Yeah.
So it looks like
Jessica, I am going to put that photo up. I know it was hard for her to see it because they were too far away. So I will definitely post it in the comments as soon as we're off of here, because it's not letting me post it right now. That's it.
That's it.
Let me see who else. Okay, here we got some more comments. Kez says, how prevalent is this slavery? I'm very new to learning about this. I've only heard about this through your organization a few weeks ago. Are there other places in the world that have chocolate slaves?
So there's about 3 million children in Western Africa that are victims of the worst forms of child labor, including slavery. Now, that comes from all the documentaries that have come out, as well as reporter who is missing, who was trying to cover the issue there, as well as all the reports that the U.S. has ever put out on this issue. Actually, anybody who's put out, Tulane University's put out, all the reports that ever have come out all point to Western Africa as to being where child labor and slavery is taking place. That doesn't mean that in those areas, as well as in other areas, there aren't families who have children working with them. If we were to find out that slavery and child labor was taking place in the way that we mean it, that's harmful, we would cease recommending chocolate from any of those countries as well. But at this point, all the information that we have is that Western Africa is where it is most prevalent. And again, we encourage you to check out Shady Chocolate and The Dark Side of Chocolate on YouTube and watch those documentaries. If you also go to our website in our chocolate section, we have full references down there, and you can check out for yourself the links that talk about this issue. And I'm pretty sure we linked the Tulane University research as well.
Yeah.
That was
nothing else, yeah.
Well, everybody.
I know. Questions? Anything? I know sometimes the chocolate list can be confusing to some people. I think is it So Organic? What's that? The ice cream, the vegan ice cream it's organic only.
Right.
So that can be confusing sometimes to people.
Yeah. Can you pull up our app? Oh, you can't. I will pull up our app. And I have to ignore all my emails while I'm doing it. So I'm going to try and see if I can show y'all. Eric will be able to tell me if you can see it. Yes, everybody, my board made me get an iPhone, so I actually can use the FEP app now. But we got it for really cheap. So basically, can they see this?
It's delayed, so sorry.
Everybody gets to see me walking around my messy. So if you look at our app, on our website, it's very easy to understand. But if you look on our app, it'll say things like not recommended. And you click on the not recommended, and it'll tell you why we didn't recommend them. So if you want to know, or if you want any more details, it can tell you right there. One of the best things that you can do, if a chocolate company that you like did not disclose or something like that, reach out to the company. The companies are so much likely to reach out to you and ask them why. You know, sometimes as we're doing this, we find out that you will get a response from the company. They will write you back. And so we've had a few companies that wrote the customer back, and then we reached out, and like for some reason they didn't get our email. Again, we rely on a volunteer who's magnificent to do this, but we are still a 2-person organization. And so it does help a lot to get the companies nudged when you reach out to them. Plus it shows them that you care, because I think that a lot are under, I mean, Hershey certainly doesn't think people, well, I guess Hershey's starting to think people care, so they're trying to greenwash everything. But we need to show companies that we do care about this issue, and it is important. You know, how we have to see ourselves more as a global partner. I know that sounds corny, but we are. And we can't make it seem as if we're okay with the exploitation and cruelty that's going on. And we have to use our voices to speak out from over here, because they think they're doing it for us without understanding that we do not accept what's happening to these children or any of the adults who are enslaved.
Definitely. Charles, he says, I do have a question.
Okay.
Let us know. Jessica, does anyone from your group actually visit these places, or how do you get the information that child slavery, etc. is happening? You kind of went over it, but...
That's fine. No, I wish we could go over there. Absolutely. I wish we could. We've relied on, we've relied on all the reports and the university reports that have come out. If my mentor, Robin Romano, who went there frequently, I relied on him, but I also rely on other people who are working out there. So if a company comes up, I can kind of run the name by them. But we do the best that we can do with our experts who are there, with asking other chocolate companies as well. But more importantly, just reading the research that's coming out. And there is a lot of research that comes out about this. I don't know now in this current administration, but it has been every year since FEP's existence.
Fernando says hello to both of us.
Thank you, Fernando.
Joanna, she asks, can you talk about why you don't recommend chocolate from companies like Hershey, even if it isn't from Western Africa?
So I don't know that Hershey has any chocolate that doesn't come from Western Africa, but this is what typically happens. A company can have chocolate that's sourced from, say, Latin America, but they also blend it. So they also may get chocolate from Western Africa and they blend it. So sometimes you'll see like single origin chocolate. Let's see if this isn't single origin. But sometimes chocolate bars will be like Ecuador. So that's single origin chocolate. The vast majority of chocolate that's out there is blended. So they just blend it from all these different countries. I hope that helps. So when we reached out to Hershey's, I'd have to look up to see what it says that they said. I think it was that they were still, I think it says they were sourcing from Western Africa.
So Charles, his question, the vegan movement is growing in both Japan and the Philippines. Does the chocolate list work in those countries? That was actually the reason I asked the question I had last week. Oh,
fantastic. Yeah, well, couple things. We just need people in those countries to send us chocolate they want us to look into. So our list currently includes, if you look at our list, we have New Zealand, England, Ireland, Scotland, Australia. Did I already say New Zealand? Mm-hmm. Sorry about that. I really like the Kiwis, let me tell you. Can't remember what other countries, but all we need is people from those countries to reach out to us. The catch we have, of course, is that we do have somebody who speaks Tagalog who could help us with any Philippine company. We'd need somebody who's in Japan to help us translate. Our woman, Simone, she's actually German, so she's able to take care of German for us. We have Fernando, who just said hi, who helps us a lot of times with the Spanish companies. So we just need somebody probably to be able to help us so we can communicate with the companies. But our list is indicated in the countries that we have because I've spoken in those countries, and then people want to know about the chocolate there. So a pitch for wanting to speak in the Philippines and Japan, of course. But if you live there and you're willing, we can give you the template. We can tell you how to do it, and we'd love to have your help because we would definitely want to make sure this list isn't just Western-centric.
Great. Jacques, that sounds awesome. We run a chocolate company in the UK and only work with ethical projects for our cacao. But
Cool.
also talk about where your sweeteners are coming from. Are you asking? I'm not sure. They also say tip here is look for single estate. I'm not sure. Sorry.
Probably like single origin is my guess. Single origin is, again, what we were talking about in terms of a lot of chocolates blended.
Jessica says thank you, and that's it so far. Nothing else. Do you have any questions, Abby?
Abby, our volunteer, is just hanging out listening to us.
No? Good, okay.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Well, I know that one of the things we're also trying to do is raise some funds for Food Empowerment Project in honor of my 30-year vegan anniversary. But more, thank you, Abby. But also more to make sure that Food Empowerment, everybody who knows me, I have ideas like just percolating in my head on things that we could do. And I've got some really cool ideas on things I want to do right now. And we also have things that we want to expand, like being able to go to Western Africa and doing this issue more on the ground. But we need funding to do it. And so Erica's birthday is on Friday. And I'm going to let you, because she wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, so some people may know, and some people may not know, but there is an option to fundraise for FEP on Facebook. And that is what I'm doing for my birthday. It's this Friday, and I started it last week. So I'm trying to raise money for Lauren's 30th vegan anniversary.
She's trying to raise it for her salary.
It's exactly why, you guys, please give money for my salary. But if you're interested and if you support our work and you believe in what we're doing, we would so appreciate if you could start fundraisers or just share our fundraisers, share our work.
Share the app, share the chocolate
yes,
list.
Everything. Just get it out there because we are not as known as all these other big animal rights vegan groups, and we want to be there.
We do.
We deserve to be there.
We have a lot we want to do.
Yes.
So, yeah, we know Facebook's evil. I mean, let's not pretend. Oh, is Facebook going to screen us now? I'm not on Facebook, so I don't know what's happening. I just know that there's issues. But we also know that you all are watching us on Facebook, so we're in a catch-22. And so I don't want to talk about Facebook without acknowledging that part of it. But we do need your support. And now I'm feeling like a telethon, which is making me very uncomfortable because fundraising is very uncomfortable anyway. So we'll see if our blabbing on is inspired more questions or if we should.
There's one more,
Okay.
one more question from Kez. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm sorry. Wait, if it is blended, do the companies tell you that their sources are blended? Are there companies that tell you they have ethical chocolate but end up not having ethical chocolate?
So the companies will say things like, we get our chocolate from Ecuador, Mexico, and blah, 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 in other places. And then we'll write back and say, okay, so where are the other places? And then they'll either write back and say, well, we can't disclose, or they'll write back and they'll say things like from Ghana or from the Ivory Coast. So that's kind of how that ends up happening. Or they'll say things like, our chocolate is blended from all over the world. So then we know that way. So that's how we know it's blended. In terms of a company, again, kind of goes back to understanding our chocolate list, and that's that there are companies who are paying for certifications, and so they do believe that they are doing the best that they can do by paying for a certification, but we still won't recommend it because it's coming from like the Ivory Coast, where again some of the most egregious issues are happening. I hope that answers your question.
Yep, and that's no more. There is a delay, so after you say that, some may be coming in. Oh, we got a little flower.
Thanks for people who are sending us flowers and hearts. It's pretty cool. So I'm not on. This is interesting to me.
Yeah, well, if that's it, we're gonna go enjoy chocolate.
Listen, there isn't very much left.
There really isn't. Yep, I think.
Well, if anybody has any other questions, obviously feel free. Please keep an eye out. If you're not on our email list, you can sign up. But we always post on social media when we've updated the chocolate list, and we've started to include the names of the companies so that you don't have to go through the whole long list. Erica has been adding that in, which I know has been very helpful for people. And thanks to Ethan for always updating our list. And Joshua for creating our app to begin with, and Luke Q for all of their help with our keeping our chocolate app not whatever happens to apps, like they get all weak and crickety or something. I don't know. But if you do, by the way, know about apps, we need your help desperately. So there's always ways you can help with Food Empowerment Project, which also just includes volunteering your time. So anything else?
Just Jessica, thank you for what you are doing.
Cool. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks for your questions. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Yes.
And next week, we are talking about
our access work.
We do access to healthy foods work in communities of color and low-income communities. And we'll be talking about our work next week. So hope you all have a wonderful week. And please stay in touch.
Perfect. Bye, everyone.
She noticed she said it when she was away from the camera.
If I can turn.
It's just me.
Finish.